Hello and welcome to a new Oxygen XML webinar. My name is George Bina and I will be your host. Today's topic is collaboration. And I remember that a few years back we introduced the web authoring, the web XML web editing at a conference, XML Prague, in a session that was considered a magic moment. Why? Because we managed to use magic and move a document from the desktop to a tablet and then to a phone and back to the tablet and to the desktop live. But what was magic at that time really become a reality with Oxygen Content Fusion. So you can use it and benefit of all this great support. And I find myself using Content Fusion more and more each day. And I find it really, really useful. So I'm really happy that we have this session to share some of this information with all of you. I invited my colleague Mihaela Kalotescu, who is a senior developer for our web authoring and collaboration team. We have also the project manager for the web author and Content Fusion, Christy Talot, available also to answer your questions during the webinar and maybe also at the end. Because we structure the webinar in first we have the main presentation, and then at the end we will have some time reserved for answering your questions. But please ask your questions as we go, because then you may forget about them at the end. You still can ask additional questions at the end, but feel free to ask them as Mihaela presents, and me and Christy will try to answer your questions also as we go, and then come back to them at the end so everyone can see what was asked and the answers to those questions. To ask questions, you can use the questions panel in the GoToWebinar interface, and you may also use Twitter if you want, but mark your questions with the Oxygen XML hashtag or address them to the Oxygen XML account so you can easily spot them. The frequent question that we receive is whether the webinar will be recorded or not, and the answer is yes, we record all our webinars and the recordings are made available on the corresponding event page, as well as on our video section on the website and on the Oxygen XML YouTube channel. Now, without further ado, let me make my colleague Mihaela presenter so she can start the presentation. Hello, Mihaela, welcome.
Hi, George. Thank you for the presentation. Hi, all. My name is Mihaela Kalotescu, and I'm a senior developer at Syncrosoft. I will present you one of our products called Oxygen Content Fusion. Today, you will learn how you can use it to improve and simplify your XML documents review workflow. I will start with great news. I'm happy to announce that we just released a new version 3.0. So you will see a new marker next to the latest features descriptions. In this presentation, you will find what is Oxygen Content Fusion, how it can be used to share documents for review, and what type of documents the reviewers can edit. Also, you will see how the shared content can be protected by controlling the access to the review tasks and by assigning them only to specific collaborators. The management of the tasks can be also controlled in Oxygen Content Fusion. I will show you how to share or transfer the tasks ownership. And if we are referring to control, you will see how the task owner can track all the changes made on the shared documents. In the last part, I will give you some starting points for the Content Fusion evaluations process in case you want to try it. Before introducing Oxygen Content Fusion, let's see what are the challenges related to the documents review workflows. There are some steps to follow in order to make some content available to the general public. There are some variations of the process, but in general, there are three main stages. Initially, a draft document is created. Then it follows a workflow process in which the document is shared with one or more people for a review. And depending on the document's content and the audience, the reviewers can be technical or legal experts or supervisor or content authors. After that, the proposals are examined and integrated in the final document, and then the document can be published in different forms. If we are referring to a technical documentation, for example, the people that are involved in the document's lifecycle may be the content author, creates the draft content and shares it to other people for review. The reviewers can be subject matter experts or technical authors. They must collaborate with each other and they may require additional information from the content author to complete their job. The review step can be the most complicated because it requires a lot of coordination and communication between the participants. There are a lot of challenges at this stage of the process, and you will see later how easily are solved in Oxygen Content Fusion. For example, how the document is sent to the reviewers, how to provide updates to each participant after each review, how to find when all the reviewers finish their job, or how to analyze and merge all the reviews. In the final step, the content author analyzes all the proposals and decides how to update the content of the document. Finally, it is ready to be published. But there are some other use cases when additional steps are required before the draft stage. For example, the SMEs can initiate the documentation process by creating documents with technical data to be used as a starting point for the actual documentation of a product. And furthermore, there are cases when the SMEs only fill in a template created by the content author. So I think we all agree that the entire process can become quite complex. And if we put all together, it can look like this. Or even more complex if we are thinking that the content author can be replaced at some point, or there may be more content authors that must collaborate to coordinate this process. There are a lot of challenges in all the stages of the workflow. It would be simpler to have a single tool that can be used for all of these tasks, right? And it is hard to gather all these people in the same place to collaborate on the document content. Furthermore, the events from the last months demonstrate us that we have to be prepared in any moment we switch from face-to-face communication to online collaboration. So it would be better to be a web tool. And think about the fact that in most cases, we want the final output to be available in different formats. So one requirement could be that the edited document to have an XML format. Wouldn't be hard to impose to the content authors or legal experts or SMEs to edit XML documents. If you choose to use Oxygen Content Fusion, it will be all simple because it is a web collaboration solution that allows XML documents editing in what you see, it's what you get editor. And it allows the content authors and the reviewers to complete all the tasks presented earlier. Oxygen Content Fusion has two components. One is the server that offers a browser interface. It is designed for both content authors and the reviewers to complete their work. So it allows actions like content drafts and template creations, task sharing, collaborative editing, and more. The second component is a plugin for Oxygen XML editor or author that is designed for content authors to allow them to easily create and upload review tasks on the Content Fusion server, or to easily integrate the changes made by reviewers on the server. And now let's see some Content Fusion in action. We will first play the role of the content author to see how he or she can create a review task, can share the task with other people, how the content author can check and integrate the changes, and even create a template on the server to be filled in with technical data. First, the content author must connect the Oxygen XML editor with the Content Fusion server. For this, the Content Fusion add-on must be installed in the editor. I will open my editor. To check if the Content Fusion plugin is installed, you have to search for that red button on the toolbar, editor's toolbar, with the Content Fusion logo on it. If you don't have this button, it means that the plugin is not installed, and this is available for Oxygen XML editor or author starting with version 20 until the current version 22.1. If it is not installed, you can go to Help, Install New Add-ons. You can go to all available sites, and from the list of add-ons that appears, you can select and install Oxygen Content Fusion connector. But I have it installed, and I will show you how you can connect the editor with the Content Fusion server. When you click on the button from the toolbar, a Content Fusion Tasks Manager view appears on the right side of the editor. And you can see that you can connect to the server. There are two options here. One is evaluation server and one is an enterprise server. Let's see what are the differences between these two types of servers. The evaluation server is hosted by Oxygen and is intended only for evaluation purposes. Only it is intended for you to determine the compatibility of this service with your business needs, and it must be used only in a non-production test environment. The enterprise server is hosted by you. You can control your own data and configuration. You can use custom frameworks and plugins, and you can configure various options. There are other differences between these two types of server. There are some features available in the enterprise mode. For example, the content authors can see the list of all the users registered on the server when it tries to add a collaborator on the task. This is not available on the evaluation server, and also on the enterprise server, you have access to server configuration, and also you have the support for LDAP activated. Let's go back to the editor to connect to a Content Fusion server. I will choose to connect to our enterprise server named fusion.sync.ro. This is a server installed only for our organization, and it is not accessible from outside. If I click connect, the server browser's interface automatically opens in my browser. And I have to connect to be able to authorize the connection between the server and the plugin. You can see here that it is possible to create a specific account directly on the server, or you can use the GitHub or Google accounts. I already have an account on the Fusion Synchro server, so I will connect to it. And now this is the authorized page. Now the Content Fusion plugin waits for authorization. If I click authorize, I am now connected to the server, and I can switch to Oxygen XML editor to create review tasks. As you can see, the Content Fusion Tasks Manager is already connected, and it contains an empty task where I can add files to upload a review task on the server. And the options are: I can click choose to use the put files from the local disk. I can also drop files from my project view, and I can also use from the editor author mode the action called add file to review task from the editor's contextual menu. Also for DITA files, this action is available in the DITA Maps Manager view. Now let's see what type of files we can send to review. So a content author can create a review task from XML files with simple text content, from interlinked XML files, and as an example, I can give you a file with X includes, complex data files that contain key definitions and profiled content, or files with custom XML vocabulary. This is available only for enterprise server, and files from CMSs, provided that the CMS has a connector for Oxygen XML editor. Now let's go back to the editor, and we will start to create a review task. I will start with a DocBook documentation. I have here an installation document about how you can install a photo album application. This installation document is included in a bigger document that also contains some information about the system on which we can install the photo album. It also contains 2 screenshots, and I have to send the entire documentation to be reviewed. For this, it is sufficient just to add the main file to the review task, because you can see here that I have an option to also include all the files that are referenced within the attached files. I will give a title to the task, and I will press next to see what other files are included in the task. So I will open the files to check them. Also the installation XML is included. I can also remove any reference file if I consider that the content must not be shared, it is private. And then I will upload the task to the server. Now it appears on my list of created tasks. This means that it is already uploaded on the server. and I can go there to see how it looks like. I can do this by just clicking on the task title or by choosing Open Task in Browser from the contextual menu. Here is how it looks like. The main page of the task has two different tabs, one for details and one for settings. In the settings, it seems that I have an option. I can force change tracking on so that all the reviewers can edit with track changes, and the default looks good to me. I will let it like this. In the details tab, I have these actions: share, download. I can delete the task. I can also add new files on the task, on the review task, and I can add messages to the reviewers. So let's go back to share, and we will see what the content author can do. It can define collaborators, or it can share and reassign ownership on the task. We will see the dialog now. The sharing settings dialog has three main sections. The first section is the shareable link one. From here, you can easily copy the task link. For example, you can share it easily on a chat. Let's say if you want to share it to the entire team. The second section is who has access, and it contains an option to allow access to all of the users that have the task link, or you can allow the access only to the collaborators specifically assigned from this dialog. Next, there is a list with all the reviewers, all the collaborators on this task, owners and reviewers. And then in the final part of the dialog, there is the section that allows you to add collaborators on the task. I can add also collaborators that are already registered on the server and collaborators that are not, and in this way I can send them invitations to make an account. For example, my colleague Marianne, I think it does not have an account yet. If I add it on the task, you will see that there is a pending collaborator message. Marianne will receive an email with invitation to collaborate on the task, and but first he have to make an account on the server. You can also remove any collaborator later. And now I will share the task with two of my colleagues for review. One is Christy and one is Bogdan. And finish. Now I will add a message to let them know that we will release the 2.0 version of the application. And now we will click on the file to see how the reviewers are editing my documents. It seems that that Christy already edits the document. I want to present a little bit the interface. In the left part, we have the section with the task files. And then there is the activity section that presents the comments added on the task. This is my first comment, and also all the activity. You can see when a reviewer started to work on a file, what are the changes that he made on the task, and you can see when a reviewer finished the job. And now I will present you one of the new features from the 3.0 version that we are proud of. You see here a diff link. If I click it, you will see a difference between the initial content of the file and the file change by Christie. So back to the edit mode. The editor is actually an integration of WebAuthor. WebAuthor is another product of Synchrosoft. It allows XML documents editing in what you see is what you get mode. And I want to say to you that Content Fusion version 3.0 includes the last version of the WebAuthor, so you will have all the features available. Now, I will let my colleagues review the task, finish the review, and I will go back to my editor because I want to show you some details about sharing DITA files. I have in my project a documentation about a mobile phone. I will open its project. It is a data map documentation about a phone named Synchrophone. And there are two versions available of this phone. One is X1000 and one is X2000. The documentation will be available in two different versions, one for each phone version. And there are some parts of the text that are available only for one version of the product. This difference between the content for one product and other product is done with profiling. And I will show you the data files that imposes the profiling attributes. Here is the X1000 data file and X2000 data file, one for each phone version. Now you can see that the X2000 content is fade out, and this is because the X1000 data file that excludes the X2000 version is applied. The condition is currently applied. So what I want to show you is that if you are creating a task with this documentation, the data file that is currently selected in my profiling options, it's automatically added on the task. And what this means is that on the Content Fusion server, after I upload the task, just a second to set the title. So on the Content Fusion server, after upload, you will see the same profiling applied as in the editor. Another great thing about DITA and review tasks is that for now I will go back to my project and I will open another documentation, is that the current route map is also attached to the review file. I have here a documentation about growing flowers. You can see that the introduction topic contains some key references. I want to send this topic to the review, but I also want these key references to be resolved on the Content Fusion server. There is no problem with this because Flowers DITA map it's automatically detected by the Content Fusion plugin and added to the task, and it will be sent on the server together to my introduction topic. I will now upload the task on the server and see what happens. So in the introduction topic, I have also the key reference here, and I can open the document. Okay, now let's go back to our initial file. No, before that, I will show you some other great thing about Content Fusion. You can also create tasks from CMSs. I have here a connection to a WebDAV server, internal WebDAV server, and you can see that you can create tasks from CMSs in the same way you created for local files. I just drop the files from my Data Source Explorer view to the new task, and they are added to the task. You can see here, as I told you earlier, that the flowers DITA map route map, the flowers route map, it's automatically added because it is the current route map from my in my editor, but there is no problem. I can remove it and I can add my space video DITA map here. I will also upload this task on the server, and here it is. It's that simple. Now, let's go back to the initial task. You can see here that a new message appeared on the task. There is one file change on the server. And another thing is that I have a new action here, get changes, so I can integrate the changes from the Content Fusion server. So let's see how content authors can integrate the reviews from the server. The content authors can check the reviewers' changes and comments initially. Then the content authors can download the task, can track the document revisions, and they can integrate the changes from the server. I will now open the photo album. Just a second. I will open the photo album task in the server's browser interface. I see that both my colleagues finished to review the documents. So the next thing that I can do is to download the task, and now I will show you another great feature from Oxygen Content Fusion version 3.0. Together with the archive that is downloaded, we included a Git repository. I will extract here the files. You can see that there is a Git repository that allows the content author to track all the changes made on the review task. And I will use the Git staging plugin installed on my Oxygen XML editor to see what changes, what changes were done on the task. We must choose the working copy, and I will go to downloads and choose the photo album directory. And then here I have the Git history. You can see that you have also the original version of the documents, and you can see that there is a commit for each change made by the reviewers. Now, let's see how the changes from the server can be integrated in the local files of the content author. I said earlier that there is an action called get changes on the task. If I click on the link, there is a get changes dialog that appears that presents me all the modifications done on the server. In the upper part, there is the list with all the files changed on the server, and here I can see the difference between the file, the local file that I initially uploaded added on the task to upload it on the server, and in the right side you can see the version from the server. Actually, this dialog presents the result of a three-way diff between the local files, the files from the server, and as a base, the files that were originally uploaded. I will choose to apply the changes. Here you can see that you also have an option to open the merged files at the end of this operation. And I have the changes applied in my document. Now, let's go back to the presentation. The last part that I present you regarding to the content author's work is sharing templates with SMEs. A content author can also create a task from the web browser interface. Let's see where the action is available. I will go now to the main page of the Content Fusion browser interface. This page presents two lists with my tasks. In the left part, you see the tasks that are created by me, and in the right part, the tasks that are assigned to me. So all the users can also have the role of content author, and also they may be reviewers on other tasks. The content author can create a task by using the new task button. This creates a task, an untitled task. I can put a name on it. The actions available here are, again, share, download, delete. I can add a new file on this task by using the templates. For example, I can choose a topic or a task. By default, on the Content Fusion server, there are included the DITA, DocBook, TI, HTML frameworks, but I can, as I said in the first part, on an enterprise server, you can upload custom frameworks and plugins to customize the editing part. So I will choose a topic template. I must set a title, specifications, for example. And now I can write some questions, for example, for the SMEs to request some technical data about a product. Next, in our presentation is the part where I will explain you how the reviewers can use Oxygen Content Fusion. As I told you, the reviewers will only use the browser interface of the server. They can they will initially receive an invitation to collaborate on a task. They can make changes on the task content. They can collaborate with other reviewers. And finally, they will let the content author knows that they finalize the review so that the changes can be integrated. Now I will close. I will log out. And for the reviewers part, let's say that I do not have an account yet on the Fusion Synchro, and I will check, as always, my email. And here I will find an invitation to collaborate on a task. My colleague Christy assigned me as a reviewer on his task called Gear Pump. I will accept the invitation, and because I do not have an account, I will sign up. I will use the same email address. It's a long address. And then I will set a password. This means I'm not a robot. I have my browser set in my language, is in Romanian. Okay, so I will sign up. My account is created. I have to then confirm my email address. And then the task page is opened, and I can start to edit the task that I'm a reviewer on. Let's see that I will make a small change on this task. As you can see, I edit with track changes. There is a problem here. I will correct it. And then after finishing all the documents, I will click on Finalize Review. Optionally, I can add some comment from the content author, and done. It is that simple. So now I hope I convinced you to try Oxygen Content Fusion. I think that Content Fusion is a great tool that simplifies a lot the review workflow. And if you want to try it, you have to know that you have 16 days of free trial available. Please go to our website and push the evaluation button. You will see that we have prepared for you a guide for easily cover all the important actions of this tool. Also, I encourage you to use our documentation and watch the video presentations. And least but not last, please contact us on our support email address if you need any guidance. We are always glad to help you. Our features development are mainly based on our client requests, so please send us any feedback about Oxygen Content Fusion. Thank you for watching this. If you have any questions, please let us know.
Thank you, Mihaela. We already received some questions, and we will so feel free to ask additional questions as we go through them and ask them and then provide answers to them, so you can get a better picture, let's say, of what we presented. Before that, though, I would like to emphasize a couple of things. First is that Content Fusion, if you are already an Oxygen user, you can try it now using our demo server, so it's immediately available to you. So the demo server is what the Content Fusion plugin offers as the default server to connect to, and you can just try it now. So you can give it a try basically in just a couple of minutes. The second thing is that when you download a task, because you have an entire Git repository with all the change history, that is actually the answer to many requests for proposals that we received, and we've seen that when people were concerned with or trying to find a review solution, they were always concerned with having a trace of what was changed, and that trace cannot be stored, let's say, unless you have some kind of repository. And now Content Fusion comes basically with an embedded repository when you download the task from Fusion, where you have the entire history. So for archiving purposes, that will be a very good option for review tasks. And another emphasis is on what Mihaela presented, when basically the create task action allows in a way also subject matter experts to initiate the process of creating new content. So basically even a reviewer, like a person that has the role of reviewer, let's say without a desktop version of Oxygen, they can start by creating some content on Fusion. And because they are subject matter experts, for instance, they may not have knowledge of how the content is engineered, how they technical writers are using profiling or keys, for instance, things like that. So they can provide an initial draft and then assign the task further to a technical writer to integrate that into the actual documentation. So coming to your questions, one question was, does the CMS connector also work via WebDAV? Because Mihaela mentioned that Content Fusion actually will be able to work with also with the content from a CMS, for instance, as long as that content can be opened in the desktop version of Oxygen. So if that CMS if the CMS has an integration with the desktop version of Oxygen, then you should be able to use Content Fusion to have a review workflow using Content Fusion. And as Mihaela presents now, she has some content actually from a WebDAV repository. So yes, if you access content from a CMS or from WebDAV, you can push that in a review task and then have other people use Content Fusion to interact with that content and then be able to merge those changes back into the original content when you execute the integrate action. Another question. Do the reviewers need Oxygen Editor to make review edits? And the answer is no. That's the point with the Content Fusion as a collaboration platform, because the people that you want to collaborate with, they do not need to have Oxygen installed. They just need to have a browser, and any modern browser will work across devices. So they should be able to access that content not only from a laptop, let's say, or a desktop, but also from tablets or smartphones. So if, in case you are on the road or and especially if you do not make many structural changes and complex things, and you just review the content and maybe highlight some parts or add some comments and make some corrections, that works actually quite well also on mobile devices. And I did that myself a number of times already since we are using Content Fusion. If the complete guide needs reviewing, does the writer need to upload all topics separately to be reviewed? And the answer is no. When you drag and drop from, and Mihaela actually presented with a fonts example. So if you drag and drop the entire map, for instance, then the Fusion connector will ask you if you want all the topics. And you can also have a multiple selection and drag and drop all of them. So also if you drag a chapter, for instance, Fusion will ask you if you want to add all the sub-content of that chapter. So you choose how much you share, and yeah, so this option is available. Are there any special settings to integrate Vason as content CCMS, component content management system, to access topics directly in editor? I think Vason provides a connector for the desktop version of Oxygen that is in the form of a plugin for the desktop version of Oxygen. So having that plugin, you should be able to access the CMS content directly from the desktop version of Oxygen. And once having that, then you can push that content also to Fusion and come back. But I think also Vason also has an integration with the web author. So you have, they may provide also a collaboration or review option also that way. Is there a plugin for Oxygen XML web author? Not yet, but we are thinking of ways in which this will work. One major part, I think, with having connectors for in other parts than the desktop is that you need this integrate part at the end. So yeah, so depending on the use cases, This integrate part may be, for instance, the web author with the Git repository, for instance. The integrate part may be a pull request against that a branch from that repository, right? So, but we will welcome your feedback about that. How do you see, how is your need exactly related to using the web author and Fusion? What do you try to achieve? So then we can get some better ideas. Maybe some of your requirements are already possible by connecting these tools in a different way, or maybe it will be something that will enter our development roadmap, and then you should be able to use that in a as part of a future release. When a review task is finalized, can a reviewer reopen the review task? Yeah, so the finalized review is just a marker on the task. It will not prevent a reviewer to make additional changes if he actually needs to do that. So a reviewer should be able to so Mihaela, maybe if you enter on a different task, one that is assigned to you, so you enter like the reviewer, so you can say finalize, but then after that, you can still go to see the task from the finalized tasks and access that, and then click on a file and make some additional changes. I'll try some changes, and then yeah, so then you should be able to use again finalized review. It's just like a special message, basically. It's like a prepared message for you in a way. It just focuses the users maybe on this workflow where they receive some content for review, and then it is expected from them to finalize that at some point. Yeah, so I think we are very close to the hour. So let me try to make myself presenter again to share some additional information with you. So we have every Wednesday at the same time, 11 a.m. US Eastern Time, we have a webinar, and next Wednesday we will have a webinar covering getting a PDF output from DITA using CSS. Basically, the publishing part from Oxygen Desktop is available. Also, it's called Oxygen Publishing Engine, and we extracted that to be available also as an engine that you can use also outside of Oxygen as part of a script or a continuous integration server to automate the publishing part. But the focus is on using CSS, which is a lot simpler than customizing the XSLT, XSLFO, FOP type of transformations for PDF output. And then unfortunately this year the DITA North America and DITA Europe events were canceled, and they were replaced with an online event called Convex, and me and Radu will present there. We have 3 sessions, and then we'll be part of 2 panels, and yeah, so hopefully some of you will be able to join us there as well. Additional information about upcoming events, maybe we'll schedule, I left some space here because we may be able to schedule a few more webinars before September. So stay tuned. You can check our events program page on our website to find more about what we plan and where you can join us. So we received a suggestion rather than a question to have a webinar for developers of custom plugins and the REST API integration. Yeah, that Christy probably takes note on. My colleague Christy, as I mentioned, he's the project manager for the web author and the Content Fusion platform, and he actually also answered the numbers of questions. So thanks, Christy, as well, and thanks, Mihaela, for presenting, and thanks all for joining us today. Hopefully, we'll see you also at a future webinar or online event, or maybe, hopefully soon, also on a real in-person event. So thanks again, and see you.